What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 11 of the 2021 Halloween special. Wow. This has been some of the most difficult work that I've ever done for something on YouTube, and as you can tell, pretty similarly to my Alien video, I do not look as prepared. I haven't shaved in forever, and my hair needs a good long scrub. But that's not the point of the video. You guys came here to hear my thoughts on a classic slasher, so that's what I'm going to give you. Okay, so this is something that I purchased specifically for this review, and also just because it was something I was very excited to have in my collection of Blu-rays and 4Ks. I believe it has something to do with the new Scream movie coming out next year, but the original Scream has officially been released on 4K Ultra HD. So that's something I've wanted for a very long time. And with that, it also was released on Steelbooks, and I am kind of conflicted if, you know, your normal 4K packaging is my favorite, or if I prefer the Steelbook packaging. Because I love the look of the 4K Ultra HD logo, but at the same time, just being able to absorb artwork is really good. So I got the limited edition 4K Scream Steelbook. I don't know how my lights are reflecting off this. Maybe you can't see it, maybe you can. I don't know. I hope it's at least in somewhat of a place where you can see it. But I love the art on this thing, the knife, half of Ghostface's face. The title is a little faint here, but I kind of like that too, and in person it looks a lot better. And on the back, you have the famous quote, "Do you like scary movies?" and a bloody phone laying on the floor. You open it up, and there it is, Scream 4K Ultra HD. That is not something I'd ever thought I'd see in my life, but here we are. So yeah, I love this thing. I love the texture of Steelbooks. It's just so amazing, but my favorite Steelbook that I probably own is Train to Busan. Because this is much more of like a smooth texture. The Train to Busan Steelbook is kind of more matte, whereas this is more of a gloss type thing. But this Steelbook is still amazing. I'm not invalidating it. I still love this. It's amazing and I love having it in my collection. Alrighty, let's go ahead and start talking about the film. So Scream was directed by Wes Craven and it was written by Kevin Williamson in 3 days, supposedly. It was released in 1996 and it changed the horror genre forever. These are not things that I need to tell you. Everyone pretty much knows about Scream. It is a classic. People love it. It's a staple of the Halloween season. And it was pretty predictable from the get-go that I was going to do a video on this movie anyway. Nevertheless, I still wanted to talk about it though, because this entire month has been me reviewing a bunch of my favorite horror films. And Scream is absolutely one of my favorite horror films. So Scream does have a very simple plot. It tells the story of Sydney Prescott, a traumatized 17-year-old girl living in Woodsboro, California. And soon enough, it's determined that a serial killer is picking off people left and right in Woodsboro come nightfall, and Sydney just may have more to do with these murders than she thinks. Scream was actually one of the first R-rated movies I saw, and I believe I saw it for the first time when I was 12 or 13. My mom showed it to me because my mom is a huge fan of the Scream franchise, and I since have become one. But I was so inspired after I watched the first Scream, because that's when I was really getting into making movies, that I did a beat-for-beat recreation of the opening scene of Scream in which I played Drew Barrymore, obviously, and my mom was Ghostface. I bought fake blood and everything. It was a blast. I also recreated the shower scene from Psycho twice. I did it once, in black and white, and I have no idea where it is, and then I filmed a color version where I used the fake blood. I had one of my brothers dress up in a suit as Norman Bates, and we did a whole thing, and I was in the shower, and he had a knife, and there was blood all over me, and it was great. I was very proud of it, and then the file got deleted. So, you know, wasn't painful. The point is, the horror genre has been very influential to me, and particularly slasher films, but the good ones. Friday the 13th doesn't really do anything for me. It's entertaining and that's about it. But movies like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Hush, Scream, these types of slasher movies are the ones that I gravitate towards. And I don't need to tell you that the reason Scream had such a huge impact on the horror genre is because of Kevin Williamson, who wrote the film. This film is legendary for its self-aware humor, the way it pokes fun at the tropes and cliches of the horror genre while also giving into those tropes That is what this film is possibly most known for, and it works so well. I mean, everyone knows this. Everyone knows how well the self-aware humor works in this film, and that was so new at the time. And anyone who's familiar with Kevin Williamson's work is not going to be surprised by this in the least. He also wrote the show Dawson's Creek, which is still one of my favorite shows of all time. I don't care what you say. That show is for teen soap operas what Scream was for the slasher genre. That's why I've always loved Dawson's Creek, because it's so self-aware and it knows what it is, and it makes fun of all the stupid cliches and tropes of teen soap opera television. And Kevin Williamson actually crafted a very, very compelling mystery here. Scream is not usually recognized as a great whodunit, even though it is. There are some brilliantly executed red herrings in this film. There were suspects in this film where it is so smart the way they did it, because they are red herrings, but it doesn't feel like the film is trying to make it obvious that they are red herrings to distract you. It actually kind of makes you think that they're trying to convince you that someone is not the killer, when in reality they are trying to convince you that they are the killer using reverse psychology, and then making you think that's probably a red herring, but you don't think that. You just think, oh, that person's the killer. I gotcha, movie, you're trying to hide it, but that person's the... Oh. They weren't the killer. Now, there is one character in this movie, obviously, and I'm not going to spoil anything just in case you're one of the 10 people out there who haven't seen Scream, but there is one character in this movie that I thought was a red herring for the longest time, and then turned out not to be a red herring at the end of the movie. And I was like, wow, that's actually really clever. Because with that character, they did make it obvious that they were a red herring. And so by doing that, they make you think, yes, that character's a red herring, that person is not the killer, which makes you not suspect them. But then at the end of the movie, it's revealed that that person is the killer. That is so clever, and it's just one of the tons of ways that this movie flips the genre tropes on their heads. Now, Neve Campbell is absolutely fantastic in this movie, and Sidney Prescott is one of my favorite main characters of all time, especially in horror. She is probably my favorite final girl. She's just freaking awesome in this movie, man. I mean, she never backs down from a fight. She's always fighting to survive, and especially in the sequels, too. She really, when she becomes this bitter, jaded person who's kind of out for blood, for anyone who's trying to keep the facade and the idea of Ghostface alive, the sequels really got into that, and it's something that really works for me about them. And going back to this first film, knowing how everything else plays out, it's really, really effective seeing where she started and seeing that she always had this in her and this will to live. She always had this fight in her from the beginning. This film is also actually very well made. The cinematography and the framing and the shot structure isn't particularly astounding, but when it comes to directing this type of film and with the tone that they're going for, it is immaculate what Wes Craven did here. And this film does a phenomenal job at balancing the conflicting tones of horror and comedy. There's a perfect balance of it, where the entire movie is such a blast and it's extremely funny, but it also does have a true sense of horror to it when you figure out what's really happening, the motivation behind the murderer, and all this stuff. It is extremely, extremely well balanced, and that is very, very hard to do, and it never feels jarring whatsoever. There are many scenes in this movie that are legitimately disturbing and scary. Obviously, the opening scene that everyone knows. If you haven't seen Scream, you've seen the opening scene. Come on. The opening scene of this movie is frickin' iconic. And from a filmmaking perspective, it might be my favorite sequence in the film. It feels so intense and in the moment, and it was such a great way to kick off the movie, combining the self-aware writing with some comedy in there, with also the legitimate, disturbing, scary moments, all crammed into one opening scene. Such a great idea for a slasher film. That is such a brilliant way to open it. So not only does this film have one of the best opening scenes of all time, it also has one of the best finales of all time. Now, in most movies, the finale itself, not the build-up to it, but the finale itself is probably 15-20 minutes at most. Wouldn't you agree? Like, the actual moment in which the finale takes place. This film has a nearly 40-minute finale. That's insane. And this 40-minute stretch of screen time feels like it goes by in 5. Seriously, it is such a well-paced finale, and you're so invested into it. You get so into it, and then it comes to a very, very satisfying ending that I love to this day. And the film never goes into far-fetched territory. When you figure out the truth behind everything, you completely buy into it. And you're like, yeah, this could actually happen. See, these are the types of horror movies that I love most. The ones that could actually happen, because that is scary to me when I'm thinking, like, these people are the types of people just like you and me that are like, man, serial killers are terrible, but I'm never gonna encounter one. That's exactly what these characters were thinking, and look what happened. Same reason why I love Hush. There are so many people that live in houses in the middle of the woods. I live in a house that is just about in the middle of the woods. That's why Hush, one of the reasons why Hush was so effective to me. Now, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, that's not exactly in the realm of reality, but still a great movie. The point is, this film feels extremely authentic to teenagers, and this is in the 90s, and it feels authentic to teenagers of today too. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had with my friends where we are being the most meta people you will ever meet, criticizing our angst and, being self-aware about it and being like, we know these are just phases and stages of angst and adolescence that we're going through, but we still feel these emotions so strongly, but we gotta be self-aware that it's gonna pass and it's completely natural, but that doesn't mean that it's invalid. We have these conversations all the time. It never changes. And it's so much fun being in that era of self-awareness. And it also allows for more advanced thinking amongst my generation, which is something that I bring up whenever I tell people that I actually do have quite a bit of faith in my generation. Not a big portion of them. I don't have faith in the majority of them, which, sorry, I know that's morbid and dark, but, like, I don't know. My people, the people that I'm with and the friends that I surround myself with, you guys all get it. So Scream really does just hit all those beats for me. The comedy is great, the writing's great, the acting's great, the cinematography is great, the directing is great, the kills are great. The garage door kill, logically, physically, say what you want about if that would actually happen, but it is an iconic kill. Every scene of the film just moves at a perfect pace. I don't understand how anyone could get bored watching this movie. It's just such a fun and intriguing and engaging, entertaining film. I don't see how you couldn't be on board with it, man. I'm sorry, I just don't. It's just such a great, entertaining slasher film. It changed the horror genre forever and has influenced an entire generation of horror filmmakers, myself included. I have no problems with Scream, and it's because of that I'm going to give Scream an A+. So guys, Scream, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments. I'd love to hear those thoughts. Just make sure to stay friendly. We're all friends here. Also, what are some of your favorite slasher movies to watch around Halloween time? This is episode 11. The next one is episode 12, which is the final episode. It is the finale of my 2021 Halloween special. I can't believe we're here already, man. Dang, that went by fast. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It really does mean a lot. Look forward to the finale of the 2021 Halloween special. I'll see you in that video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.